Alright, it's Rawze here from Rawze.com. Somebody on my forum asked me about headlight wiring. Said their Prostar has problems with their headlights, cutting in and out, electrical wiring issues. So I thought I'd make a short video today of some of the things that I've seen on my Prostar since I've had it. I've had my Prostar since new. It's got 750,000 miles on it now. And I've had a lot of wiring issues, air line leaks, water line leaks, you know, stuff that really just plagues the truck over the lifetime of it. So I thought I'd point out what I've seen with my truck and other people's trucks that I've helped. And it's pretty common, some of these things that happen. So I'll make a YouTube video of it today. Maybe it helps somebody out there that has a Prostar that has a lot of issues and can't find them or solve them. Anyways, when it comes to wiring, I've seen quite a few places that the wiring likes to go bad, specifically on the Prostars here. And concerning the headlight, to answer the guy's question to start with, these headlight harnesses, the wiring harnesses, like to go bad. They're just a little pigtail. Of course, mine's got a lot of age and miles on it now, but this pigtail here unplugs right here. It's a little short harness that comes up here, plugs into all the bulbs. These little plugs here, especially on the main headlight, that's the blinker, but the main headlight plug, it likes to burn out right here. So if you get that, you know, check these, make sure they're not loose, you know, you don't have any really dark discoloring, or it's not all flaky and crusted up where it's gotten hot and burnt. You know, whenever I see that on mine, I just replace this whole harness right here as one unit. I don't bother to try to change the plugs. I don't think I've ever had to change this one. I've had to change the one on the other side, I think, twice. But right here in this joint, the wiring sometimes, I don't know the original joint, I've redone this one, but the wiring sometimes likes to go bad right where you get a joint where there's a zip tie. Right there, just before this plug, it likes to go bad right there. Another spot they love to go bad is right here. Let me get my little laser pointer out here and I'll get all fancy on us here. See if I can make my laser pointer work. Right there, they like to go bad where they're zip tied. Right here is a really good spot. They like to go bad. And then of course the wire comes along and down under the frame. You can see I've got mine zip tied up. And then back around. There's a junction right here, right in here. The wiring likes to go bad in that junction because water and moisture accumulates in all that conduit and sits in there, and it just eats away at the wiring. So you have to, sometimes you have to take all this apart, you know, cut all that plastic away and the tape that they put on there from the factory away and clean it all out and check all this wiring. What I do is I peel all the conduit back all the way across, and then I rewrap it when I'm done, pull it all the way, cut all the zip ties. You can see I've re-zip tied this one a while back. Had to do it in a truck stop parking lot because I lost my headlight, was under a load, you know, you don't want to get a DOT failure, so I had to do that in a parking lot one time. And then they also like to go bad right here in this joint. If you can see where my laser's pointing, right there, way down in there, that's the wiring harness where it comes around and goes under the frame. I had to pull all that back. And how you find the bad wire, I'll kind of show that real quick. Cut. Alright, when you're under your truck and you've got your wiring harness pulled away and you're looking at the wires, here's how I find them. A lot of times you can't really tell which one is broken, you know, in a wiring harness. So what I do is I take each wire and I pull on it nice and hard, like this. And if it snaps, the wire inside's no good. So I take one, take another one, pull on it real hard. Take the next one, pull it. Take the next one, pull it. And then whichever one is bad, it'll break. You know, you feel them, make sure there's no hard spots in them, you know, feel all the way down. And almost always you can find the bad wire. Then when you go to rewrap it, just make sure you wrap it really tight with something so that water and moisture can't get back in there. And also want to show a good way, or how I do it, of patching a wire or splicing a wire. Let's say you find a bad one. Let me go get that real quick. Alright, so here's how I splice a wire. Let's say I got a bunch of wires here, and let's say I find a bad one. I'm going to cut this one in half. Let's say this one's bad. Okay, I broke it, I cut it in half, and now I got two pieces. You know, it's all corroded. You just cut whatever corrosion there is out of it, you know, cut it back to where there's no more corrosion. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to strip it, which I forgot my strippers. Alright, so I got my wire, I stripped it off about 1/4 inch on either side. And of course you're probably going to be underneath the truck cussing, you know, and everything else. But what I do is I use these yellow connectors, or blue ones, or whatever size. The little tiny red ones are for little tiny wires. The blue ones are for, like, you know, 20 gauge, 18, 16. And then the yellow ones are for, like, you know, number 12, 14, 10. So, you know, being a headlight wire, if the guy's got a headlight problem, he found his broken wire, probably going to want to use a yellow one. But I always put them on and then crimp them with my crimping tools. But before I do, that thing's just going to go bad in another 6 months or so. It's going to corrode again, because air and salt and everything, or whatever, road salt, you know, whatever's going to get in there, dirt. So what I do is I take some clear silicone, I take the barrel connector, and I stick it on the end of the clear silicone like this, really tight, and then I squeeze it, get all the way through it, until I see it come out the other side. You see that? Did you get that? And then I just sort of wipe it off, and then I take my wire and I put it in like this, really nice. Take my crimping tool and put it on there, crimp it down really nice like that. I do the other side, and I got all that stuff oozing out of it. Make sure it gets all the way around there best I can, and crimp the other side like that. And I take the excess and just kind of rub it in and wipe my hands off. But if you do that, it'll seal really well, and it won't corrode inside there. It'll be flooded with that silicone, and once that silicone dries, no air or nothing's going to get in there to let it corrode again. So that's a good way to fix a wire, you know, on a wiring harness without having to replace the whole harness. So that's what I do when I repair a wire. Alright, back to showing places that wiring likes to go bad, hoses, fittings, things like that. As far as the wiring goes, believe it or not, one of the problems with the wirings with these Prostars comes from the windshield washer tank. The windshield washer tank supplies washer fluid through a little pump, and I'll show where that little pump is. Through a little pump right there, right there, a little electric pump, and the hoses from the tank, the hose from the pump, which is right there, goes down and under the truck. And I'll actually crawl under the truck here and show you. Alright, I'm underneath my truck, under where the windshield washer fluid thing is. I think it's right there somewhere. Anyways, the line comes across right here from the windshield washer. That's it right there. Comes across, comes down and under the frame and across. Well, it's not right here. It likes to go bad right there, that zip tie right there. It's kind of hard to see, but right here it goes into the wiring harness and it joins the wiring harness. That's the windshield washer supply hose that's got windshield washer fluid in it, and it joins this wiring harness right here, and that zip tie right where it goes into the zip tie, right here, it all rubs the frame, it all rubs the zip ties, and you can see right there, see that discoloring in that hose? All that hose, that harness is all discolored because it leaks into the wiring harness. Yeah, real good design there, Mr. International. Run that thing right up into that wiring harness. There's the other hose. I pulled it out of the harness, and I've actually patched it right there temporarily for now because mine was dripping pretty bad. I need to fix that right. I need to go get a union. But they love to leak right there. All the wiring in this wiring harness likes to go bad slowly. And guess what? That's the headlights. That's the turn signals, the bright lights, the headlights, the marker lights in the front, and God knows what else. I think some of it goes around to the other side, around the side of the motor. It's none of the motor wiring, it's cab. You also got this sensor here that it comes out of this, the wiring comes out and goes to this, the city horn and the highway horn. So the highway horn, it's air driven, but its hose runs right here with it. And guess what? It rubs through right here too. That's where they love to rub through the frame. So that whole wiring harness up under there, you know, at some point you're probably going to end up taking the whole harness apart, cleaning it all out, and you know, inspecting all the wires. It's a mess. It's a pain, especially on an older truck, you know, as they start getting really old. So let me show a few more things while I'm at it. I'll claw out from under here real quick. All right, that harness I was just showing is right here. It's right here under the frame on the driver's side. So that's if you're not sure where I was pointing to. Now that we've crawled out, I want to point out a few other things. Among wirings, air leaks. These things love to have air leaks in certain spots. These Prostars, show where I'm at here. Right up under here, under the air can. Right up under here. It's kind of hard to see. See if I can get the camera up there. Right up under here is the solenoid for the fan. That guy right there, it's like a little barrel type solenoid. Like I say, that's up under the can, or right up under there past the steering bar. You take the can off, you can get to it pretty easy, the air can. But those fittings on the end of that solenoid, those two fittings right there, those black hoses and those fittings love to leak. Also, where this green hose comes in, it likes to leak up in there. The main green wire, the green hose that comes in, some trucks will have it coming in right here. Mine's got it coming up there. Another bad spot where there's air leaks, this one will put you on the side of the road. Coming off the compressor is the main air line going to the air system, straight off the compressor, and it's copper, and mine's kind of faded out because it's old. And right here, this copper line, if you follow it down, all the way down, back here to the rear of the motor, there's a junction right there in the rear of the motor, past the clutch pedal and all that stuff, mechanism. And that junction right there, it loves to, you see how close the hose is to that bolt, that large bolt just below it? That little bracket likes to break. And the hose will sit and vibrate against that bolt, and it'll rub a hole right through that copper line, and it'll cause your air compressor to work twice as hard to give you the air. Your air won't build up nearly as fast as it should. You know, eventually it won't build up here hardly any air at all. It could pop right there or blow out and put you on the side of the road where you have no air. And you know, that's a really bad spot right there that they love to leak. The truck also likes to leak coolant in several places, you know. Back around to here, the radiator, just under the power steering can reservoir. This hose right here, this radiator hose, main radiator hose going up to the motor, coming out of the radiator, they love to leak right there in that joint. Mine has crimp connections. You can see there's no hose clamp. They love to go bad after a while, and love to leak right there. Fortunately, mine's never leaked right there. But radiator fluid likes to leak out of that spot right there, and also on this side over here, it loves to do it. This hose right here, right in that joint, right in that corner, they love to leak there. That fitting and the little bleed off tube, you know, that's how you bleed the coolant out of the system if you want to drain it. Loves to leak. You can see mine's a little wet right around it. Well, mine's wet because my radiator leaks, and I'll show that too. I think I've seen a lot of them do it. I've seen a lot of them leak there. So let me cut real quick and get a mirror and I'll show you. Alright, I got a mirror, a big mirror, and yay, I can see myself. I'm going to look around the front of my radiator here using this mirror, and you can see that right along this edge of the radiator, right down here below the charge, that's a charge air cooler up there, that's just dirty. Right down here, right there about behind that joint, that bar, that bracket, they love to leak there. You can see mine's leaking, it's wet. Mine's been leaking there for a long time. It's the fins where they go into the side, right in the joint. Mine leaks right there, just slightly. I lose maybe, you know, the coolant levels here. When the engine's hot, it's up here somewhere, so I don't worry about it. But I'll lose maybe a half a gallon in about, I don't know, 3 weeks, 2-3 weeks, and I know it's leaking there, so I'm not burning it or anything. I'm not going to replace it. That's a $3,000. I think that's like $3,000 in radiators or something. It's crazy, ridiculous expensive. Until it gets bad enough for me to justify it, I'm not going to fix it. I'm just going to leave it. So it's not dripping. It doesn't drip. I got a zero pressure system, you know, it's not pushing coolant out of it. My zero pressure system, I got a little valve here I put on the top of my reservoir tank, and it's just open. And then I put a little piece of Scotch-Brite to keep dirt from getting in my tank. I have a zero pressure system. There's no pressure in my coolant system whatsoever. None. It's totally zero pressure. I could do that, and the engine could be like 200 degrees, and it wouldn't. No air would come out. It wouldn't. There's no pressure. I run a Evans waterless coolant system, so I can do that because I don't want to put pressure in my system because my EGR cooler might leak. I don't want to change that either. I'm lazy. But I think it's good for the EGR cooler. That coolant's really good for the motor. I know it is. I run it. It makes the fan come on a lot less. It's more efficient. Another spot they love to leak is, I'm going to show right down in here. This is coolant. It's right off in here, back behind the manifold, right up in that joint, that little fitting right there. That water line right there loves to leak. As the engine gets older. That's a coolant line. It loves to leak right there in that joint. I've seen a lot of people come over. They'll tell me their EGR cooler's leaking. They're losing coolant like mad, and I'll pressure test their system. And guess what? That fitting right there is leaking, not the EGR cooler. Another one that loves to leak. Let me show where this one's at. Above the coolant tank is that fitting right there. Right there. That hole's right there. That fitting. That one loves to leak as well. That's come right up underneath your alternator there, around that corner. Loves to leak right there. And you won't catch them going down the road a lot of times. A lot of times you gotta take and put a pressure test kit on here, pump it up with about 15-20 psi of air pressure, and then sit and watch the, let it sit for an hour or two, and then watch to see if you have any puddles on the ground or any coolant dripping out of those fittings. They like to leak there, the joints. That's all coolant, by the way, that love to leak. So not really a lot of airline or electrical problems over here I've seen much on my truck, so just coolant. As far as airlines go, there's some more airlines that love to leak down here under the truck, and I'll show those too best I can. So I'm gonna crawl under the truck, nice and pretty like, and point some things out. Now here's my transmission, the bottom of my transmission right here, and the drive line going in. Up around the top, I can't get to it with the camera right now, but maybe I can. Up around the top, of this transmission. Right up here on the right side, up the top. Let me see if I can get to that with the camera. Not really. But up around the top side of that transmission, right up here on the right side, the airline, this airline right here goes in. That airline, right there. Let me see if I can get that on the camera. Right here. That airline goes in and around the top of the transmission, over and up the top of the transmission, up towards the front near the stick shift. It's just to the right of the stick shift, on the top of the transmission. That hose, there's an airline that makes an elbow right there. That elbow loves to leak. For some reason, it'll leak. You'll be under here, you'll see, I hear a leak, I hear a leak. The funny thing about that one though is, when the truck has above 90 PSI, it'll leak. As soon as the truck gets down to 90 PSI, it'll stop leaking. It's just the way it is with that circuit. So you got to catch it right when you shut your truck off to see if it's leaking. The only way I could get to it on mine was to actually pull the mat up in this cab and pull this plate. That's my stick shift right there. I had to pull that whole plate inside the cab, and then I could get right to it. I mean, you could just reach your hands down and change it. But you got to pull that. It's a big square plate you can pull off right there on the floorboard of your cab underneath your mat. So it's a easy way to get to it if it ever leaks up in there. Another one that loves to leak after a while is these solenoids. Here's all your air solenoids right here. This is the transmission. This is just up to the left of it, right here, embedded in the frame right there. There's all your air solenoids. They love to leak right there. The fittings like to leak, but more than the fittings is all these solenoids are just snapped in there. They clip in. They just kind of clip in with one screw, I think, or a clip. I forget. It's been a while. But they kind of clip in, and there's a block that they all sit on, and that little thick, there's like a thick block right there in the corner. You can see it runs all the way across the back of those. That block is plastic, and it loves to crack, especially if you've been in the snow and ice and all the winter and you've had some moisture in your lines. Ice will build up in that block, and it'll crack the plastic in that block, and it'll cause that block to seep and leak just non-stop. There again, at 90 PSI, that block will stop leaking, because all these solenoids are controlled by the same circuit that feeds the transmission, the shifter, and all that other stuff, clutch fan. And below 90 PSI, they'll stop. So you got to catch it. You got to pump it up, the air up to above 90 PSI, 100, 120, and then crawl under here and see if you can find it leaking. Another spot that loves to leak, where the air dryer is at, up underneath the truck here. The air dryer itself obviously goes bad after about 700,000 or 800,000 miles. Its own life expectancy is only 800K. But they love to leak right here on these Prostars. Right here on this side of the air dryer, there's like a little yellow line coming up, and they put a T-fitting right here. That T-fitting loves to leak. If you wiggle it with your fingers, it'll bleed, it'll leak, you'll hear it. That line likes to leak. And also these, these two green and red, the main green and orange hoses going to your tanks, they tend to leak right here too over time. So you get these fittings down under here that love to leak. So those are two more spots where you get a lot of airline leaks, a lot of tiny leaks, just keeps bleeding your air down, and all that good stuff. That's about what I know. Let me see if I can think of any more. Alright, while I'm under the truck, also, if you're running EGR and DPF, as you should be, the older Prostars, mine's a newer one, mine's a 2011, so I've got all the updates, but some of the older ones, the 07, 08s, this bracket here, this is the exhaust pipe coming in, the main exhaust pipe. This bracket here, midway, there was an update to this bracket. The older ones had like a welded pipe, a welded bar that went over and went attached to the frame. The newer ones have a bushing like this. You see that rubber bushing in the exhaust pipe? They put a rubber bushing in the newer ones, and where it makes it, I've got mine wrapped with some exhaust wrap, which works quite well, by the way. Right here where they go in, there's another like big bracket and clamp. They love to crack right here. This lower part right here in front of the DOC loves to crack on the older ones. This is a newer style. You can see that, it's got a big reinforcing body on it and everything. This is the newer style, but the older style had like a big bracket right here. It was like a big bracket came up, like hose clamp here, hose clamp down here, fitting. They loved to crack right down here in the face, so always keep an eye out for that if you're EGR and DPF when you're doing your inspections, because if that cracks, what happens is the truck will not do proper regens. It'll, you know, instead of the fuel getting back here and getting in your DPF where it should be, it actually comes out down here. You'll see white smoke, puffs of white smoke coming out when you try to do a part regen or a force regen. You know, same thing up there with the exhaust flex pipe. If you see little white puffs of smoke coming out up there during the regen cycle, then you know, this thing's obviously not going to regen properly, and you're going to have continuous problems. So that's another place. That's where the exhaust likes to leak and stuff like that. So those are most of the places where I've seen major problems. Let's see if I can crawl out from under here. And I think this is probably what it is. Mine has rubbed through right here. This wire, I don't know if you can see that. This wire right here, watch this. Looky there. Up under there, it has rubbed. And the bottom of that wire, you can feel it, it's pretty flat. So that may be why I'm getting sensor alarms here. That or the wheel's really dirty. I just tried to clean my fifth wheel earlier and made a mess. Anyways, the other side, same thing, it's rubbing, same place. So I don't know if that's something new I just found or what, but that's what I know about the places the wiring likes to go bad, or what I've seen so far with this truck. You know, it's just a matter of catching anything that comes around the corner of a frame. Oh, one more thing. Yeah, oh, shut up already, right? Let me show one more spot. Sorry. The transmission itself. This is important. It's a good thing I remembered it. The transmission itself has coolant lines for the oil coming up to the front, to the radiator, to a coolant. You know, a radiator, a little transmission cooler in the front. And guess what? Where those lines come in, let me have the camera. Right in here in the top, on the driver's side, right here where they come into the frame, right here, those two lines, those are transmission lines right there. There's two of them. They're right there. They're kind of bluish, clothish, I don't know, looking things. Right there, where they come off the frame, right up underneath the, what do they call it, crankcase filter? They touch the frame right there. And guess what? Mine have almost completely rubbed through, so I got to fix that too before I go back out. They've almost completely rubbed through. Those two transmission lines. That's real lovely, huh? Lose all the oil in your transmission and then wonder why it blows up. So that's not good either. Like I said, there's 750,000 miles on this truck, and after 750,000 miles, that's what I've seen mostly, or the places that mostly go bad. So that's what I know. Maybe that helps somebody out there that's having problems or issues or air leaks or wiring problems they can't solve, because, you know, we all try to learn from each other out here, us drivers, because you know, the shops and stuff, they guess, you know, some of them know some of this stuff, some of them don't, and I just don't want to be on the side of the road somewhere, especially pouring down rain in a parking lot, underneath my truck, trying to fix a bad wire because my headlight won't come on. Yes, I've done that. Anyways, that's all I know. Good luck.